had to do one more setting adjustment. So again, hi, I'm Sarah Dector. I'm the Comprehensive and Neighborhood Planning Manager for the City of Flagstaff. We are here today to welcome everyone to participating in the update for the Flagstaff Regional Plan. Our current regional plan is called Flagstaff Regional Plan 2030, and that's the timeline for its vision for the community. And now we're going to take this process forward a little further and look forward into 2045. So imagining about 20 years in the future and thinking about all the steps we'll have to take to create the community we want to see. Before I dive into our content today, I'd like to read our city's Indigenous Land Acknowledgement. The City of Flagstaff humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's Indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by Native descendants, border mountains sacred to Indigenous people. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. And I would be remiss if I did not on October 1st remind everyone that October 10th is our City of Flagstaff Indigenous Peoples Day celebration, and that there is a flyer online with all the activities that have been planned here at City Hall and virtually. So I wanted to make sure I plugged that before we launch. So we often, I know we gave everyone a handout, and there's one online in the virtual handout packet that Tamara's posted of what is the regional plan. Because it sounds broad, and it is, but it actually does some really key things in our planning and decision making over a very long period of time. It helps the city decision makers play the long game and look out into the future and think about how all the small decisions they're presented with week after week add up to a future that we want to see and that we're targeting as we talk about what the results and outcomes could be of those various decisions. It's especially important in 3 topic areas. Land use is really the core topic area for the regional plan, and then transportation and water are also very tightly tied to those. There's some additional master plans for those topics, but they all have to tie together for those systems to work for the city. And so we call this a regional plan, and we're the only city in Arizona that has a regional plan of this sort because it serves as the general plan for the city of Flagstaff, and it is an amendment to the comprehensive plan for Coconino County. So Coconino County is our partner in this process, and they also will adopt the same document that results from the input we receive today and throughout the next year or so of what we're doing in terms of outreach. So the regional plan is the top of this broad planning hierarchy. And if you pay attention to city council or board of supervisor agendas, you'll also hear about other plans like the Southside plan or the carbon neutrality plan or a transportation or a utilities master plan. Some of those are specific plans that are directly legally tied to that same thing that the regional plan does, which helps guide land use decisions like zoning cases and annexations. And then finally, all of those parts of the city code that influence land use tie their decision making and why they're doing updates and why they're doing changes to the regional plan as well. So as I said, it's this regional plan is our city's general plan. So we don't have a separate plan like Coconino County does. Coconino County is the size of a small country. And so they have a lot of open lands and they have some very populated areas. It's important to note that this region that we call the Flagstaff region, which extends from Belmont to Doney Park to Kachina Village and Mountain Air and all the way up to Fort Valley, is 66% of the population of Coconino County in this square. And then the rest of the land is more sparsely inhabited, but there is Williams and there is Page and there's Tucson and other communities that also do their own separate planning efforts with the county. So this is what the region looks like in terms of a map. And I can always read a map at this scale because I have all these little shapes in my mind memorized, but I'll walk everyone through it a little bit. So the western boundary of the regional plan starts up in the Coconino National Forest and then comes down into the Belmont area and then follows the edge of Camp Navajo and kind of corners out in the Woody Mountain area. It then comes along and follows to Kachina Village and Mountain Air on the south boundary. And then the eastern boundary goes up through the Cosnino exit. So when you're driving out towards Winslow, Cosnino is our eastern boundary. And then to the north, this comes right along the Sunset Crater Park, National Park boundary and Cinder Hills area, and includes Timberline and Fernwood, and then out via 180. So it includes part of the Kachina Peaks and includes all of these inhabited areas within the city. Whether or not you're in the city limits, this plan is something that influences how your neighborhood will change and grow for the next 20 years. So the current regional plan that we've been working with since 2014 is very much based on goals and policies. So we have these written sentences that we use to evaluate land use decisions. And then we also have a generalized land use map. So this is our generalized land use map, and I go back to it for a second. Those dots and circles are activity centers. We think of those as 15-minute neighborhoods, places where we would like to have a place where people can live, work, and play all within walking distance. And we've seen some of those emerge in the last 8 years. And some of them still have pretty much are the way they were when we adopted this in 2014. And then we had identified different area types, which talks about the density, intensity, and mix of uses we expect to see in different parts of the city. Rural being the lowest density and lowest mix of uses, urban being the highest density and highest mix of uses, and then there being employment and special districts for things like Camp Navajo and NAU, where they're really a state land or a federal land that's governed differently than the way we would the rest of the land in the region. So we use this plan not just as a plan, but it actually has really robust scenario modeling behind it. So we're going to do that again in this spring, look at what could be in the future and what could it mean as the community grows and changes. And when we did this in 2012 and 2014, some folks who maybe were part of this process might remember going to a meeting and getting a little chip and saying, this is 50 homes, where do you want to put it in the region? That's one part of scenario planning, but it's also stress proofing our future thinking. So we will spend a lot of time also talking about external factors that are macroeconomic or bigger like climate change that could be influencing our community that we will have to be responsive to. And all of this comes together as well with our transportation modeling for the region. So when you hear that there's a traffic impact analysis for a project, they're often using projections that are tied to the decisions we make in this process to determine what is that future growth scenario that they're projecting that traffic into look like. Another piece we use this plan for is to support our 100-year water supply designation with ADEQ. This is an optional designation for Flagstaff. We are not one of the cities or places that are required to have it, but we elect to have it because it creates a peer review process for our water demand and water production assumptions. And we also do stress test it with USGS with their climate modeling group as well. So the county, however, is not a water provider, and they have private water companies that do not have the same designation. They have a working group for the upper Colorado River Basin that they all participate in, and that group will be involved in this process as well. But by state statute, these plans have to be updated every 10 years. So it's 2022. We're really trying to get a new plan drafted and ready to show to the community by 2024. And at the same time, Coconino County has hit their 10-year mark to start updating their comprehensive plan. So we may be working on two things at once with this same process. But you can see your input here really matters because it influences a lot of other places that and a lot of other decisions that get made throughout the region by multiple agencies. They're all tied to this one document. So there are a lot of ingredients to the regional plan, and one of our participants today actually asked me a great question. She said, well, what happened to the plan we did in 2014? And I said, well, and what's in this one? So right now there is nothing in this plan, which is easy to explain because we're here to talk about what you want to see in this plan. And then we will go back and look at the plan we have now and figure out what is working and what is functional to meet the desires of the community today and what we may have to take a second look at. So the focus today is really on this bubble of community vision and values because that is a driving light to a lot of the decision making that happens in this planning process. But we have done, and on our website, you will find a lot of data analysis and information things. There's a whole section called Regional Snapshots that has short videos that talk about 20 different topics of how the city and county work, how different topic areas have base information that we use in this planning process. We also have a lot of other strategic documents and plans that we will be looking at and incorporating into these conversations. Not quite sure of the timing yet, but down the line, there'll actually be a committee that brings all of these ingredients together and helps us really churn out what the new plan is going to look like. So as I said, the regional plan, because it talks about land use as its main topic, actually covers and influences a lot of other things people care about. But land use is the core, and then water and transportation are sort of the next tier of really important things, because they are systems that can't function at their most efficient without land use decisions being tied to them. But we also talk about other public facilities, our economic vitality as a region, air quality considerations, and also our protection of natural resources, which has been a major theme in both the county's comprehensive plan and the city's regional plan and the city-county regional plan since their inception in 2001. What we also have are emerging topics, topics that the current plan was more silent on, or maybe wasn't very explicit about goals and policies and how we'd want to move forward. There has been a major amendment to the city's version of the regional plan for carbon neutrality. The county is still working to adopt their climate action plan. Equity and inclusion is not very well integrated into the current plan. We also have new affordable housing strategies and market realities that need to be considered. Public health was not a topic that was covered very heavily, and yet empty grocery shelves and the availability of food systems and healthy food in our community is a topic we've been hearing a lot about, as well as our resiliency to future pandemics, both our healthcare system, our social services and safety nets, and our built environment. The next piece that's coming along is electrification of automobiles and transportation. The Department of Transportation actually just put out a major master plan of creating properly spaced electrical charging stations coast to coast in the interstate system. Flagstaff, being a major transportation hub, is included in that, as is other places near our region. And so as those bigger plans are coming into play, we have to start talking about them differently and considering them differently. So we have broken this big, complicated thing that sounds like it's a little bit about everything, even though it's very tightly tied to land use, into several phases. So phase one was what we started over the last year. Some folks in the room may have had small meetings with our group, or met us at a public event, or gone to one of our online webinars, or just stumbled across our website. And that was all in the sense of trying to get this early information out. We also have been building a youth engagement process that Mark Revis, our neighborhood planner, is leading, where we're working in classrooms this year with FUSD and with Flag High School and with some other schools to do youth engagement on the regional plan. So setting ourselves up for all of those things, we're now in phase two, where we are here to talk about the vision and goals and really start creating iterations of what will become the plan. And so at this point, we're kind of in the top portion of phase two, but throughout next spring and summer in particular, we're going to move into a collaborative process and scenario planning process where you will really get to be in the sandbox with us and thinking about, if I were the decision maker and I could lay my values against all of these trade-offs and concerns and future scenarios, how would I want to see us make decisions? And that's a really exciting time. It's also a very challenging time because there's one participant in our neighborhood plans who used to say no one gets to walk away with all the marbles. And it's very much like that. There's a lot of marbles, and we'll all have to come together and have conversations about how we make tough decisions as a community together in the best way we possibly can. Starting next fall, we will move into phase three. We will actually start writing the plans. So we're still kind of in this early phase, but that means also that this is a great time to jump in because early input will get carried throughout the process. Once we have been through sort of the rigorous writing and review process where attorneys and city council and the board of supervisors and the committee all churn through the document together, we go through a public hearing phase. And I want to say a couple things about this that are important. If you are a resident of Coconino County, when we get to this phase 4 of plan adoption, you want to be on the lookout for the Board of Supervisors and County Planning and Zoning Commission public hearings, which will get advertised in the paper, and if you're on our email list, then you will get them by email. If you are a property owner in the city, but not a registered voter in the city, or a resident of the city who's not a registered voter in the city, you will be looking for the City Council and the City Planning and Zoning Commission hearings as your penultimate way to participate. If you are a registered voter in the City of Flagstaff, you have the opportunity, probably in May of 2025 or November of 2024, depending on when council chooses to send it to a ballot, to vote on the plan directly. And those registered voters in the City of Flagstaff get to vote, and you don't have to be a property owner. You just have to be a registered voter here. And that is because the state law has different requirements for cities over 50,000 people than counties and other places. And so there are actually 3 ways to be part of the final decision, and I'm trying to keep being clear about that from start to finish because it's not the same for everybody. So there are those 3 places. It's important to know for your situation which one you want to be paying attention to. So we have a really key question we've used to kind of guide these early conversations, which is how do we build a community so everyone can thrive in this region through 2045 and beyond? And what we'll do today, now that I'm pretty much done with the content of this presentation, is we are going to ask you to go around and visit several breakout stations. So I'll talk about the in-room breakout stations first. The first one is going to be with Mandia, who is our facilitator in the back of the room. She's going to take folks back to the green board back there where you can put things on the wall and ask you to help write a vision statement. This is your vision statement for the community. You don't have to necessarily share it with anyone else, but you can, and you can also work together if you want to come up with a small group vision. That's also acceptable at that particular table. And then Jordan, I'm looking where Jordan is. Oh, he's doing a technical thing in the back. Well, Jordan or Sullivan, there's Jordan. Hey, Jordan, wave at folks. Jordan is going to be with the maps on the back table, and the back table will be where you can put dots on the map to describe a community asset. And the question there is really what makes Flagstaff region and community strong. And our goal there is that you find the things that really, if you imagine that you went away from Flagstaff for 20 years, you moved, you went back home to take care of your family member, or maybe your job just took you out of the community for a while, and you came back. What needs to be here so that Flagstaff still feels like Flagstaff? Because every community changes, and what has to be here? What's really the important things so that you would know you are home? So that's the piece that Jordan's leading in the back. And then Sullivan, are you doing this one? Sullivan is going to be on this wall, and this wall over here is a set of posters where we have a set of questions. So there's a quote by Bernard Shaw that says, the key to finding a solution is posing the question in the way that allows a solution. And so we would like to have great questions to answer as we work on the plan. And so iteratively through we're on meeting 7 right now, I think. And so in the last 6 meetings, people have participated and helped refine these questions. And you will see these questions again in phase 3, because when we, when we release the draft plan that first time there is a 2045 plan for everyone to look at, we're also going to publish a report where we put these questions up and say, here's how we answered this question in writing this document. So you here today, if you have a burning question, you think I have to know that to know if we were successful in creating the plan we want, this is the place to get that on the board. You also get an opportunity to work with Sullivan to kind of vote up or vote down questions that you feel are really important, or questions that you think are really misstated and you have kind of an issue with the way the question is put forward. So he'll be over there to participate with that. And then Mark, who is our neighborhood planner, and is going to wave, is going to be kind of in the lobby. And if you wandered around these stations, he's really tall. You'll find him. Trust me. But if you wander around these stations and you think my thing I walked in the room with today didn't fit anywhere in this process, then go visit with Mark. And we have a station we call Just Talk to Your Neighbors. And you can sit down with Mark, and he's taking notes and kind of keeping a running conversation of what everyone's talked about. And you can feel free to have a group conversation with him. So if you're looking for something to do, just joining up over there. Sometimes it's a really full group by the end of the meeting. And then if you're online with Tamara, Tamara has what's called a Jamboard, and she's going to post a link to that. And she's going to kind of take you through these exercises one at a time as a group. And then at the end, you'll have an open period of time to have your open conversation, just like the Talk to Your Neighbors group. Tamara, did you want to add anything to the conversation or instructions for the online participants?
I think we're good. Yeah, we'll get looking at the Jamboard in just a couple minutes here.
Great. So I'm going to leave this up for just a minute. I'll take it down in a second so Tamara can share with the folks online the other things she needs to show them. But we have a couple key ways you can be involved. And it's really important to join our email list, or at least give us a phone number if you don't have an email, so we know how to reach out to you. And there was a handout at the front that showed you all these links if you needed to grab that too. But you can visit the website. There's a place to join up the mailing list. Check out a couple of our regional snapshot videos. We brought in experts from all over the region. You can watch the 15 to 20-minute presentation or stick around for the questions. And then we also have an online visioning survey. So some of these things, maybe you want to dig in a little more into kind of what Mandia's station was about, then there's an online survey where you can dive into that topic a little more deeply. And then this is my phone number if anyone needs me, and Melissa Shaw is the Coconino County Long Range Planner. She's not here today, but she's the contact if you're a resident of Coconino County.